everybody who knows anything about the fight business, and it's been a big topic of discussion leading up to this fight. 5 years off in this sport is rough. And like you said, great card, unbelievable. I mean, the Paddy Pimblett thing right before, you just feel it all in the air, here we go. I mean, I was expecting at least a one-round war, or, you know, who knew what Conor was capable of as far as cardio or whatever else after a 5-year layoff, and well, there you go. I mean, we're assuming blown ACL. I'm no doctor, but that's what I figured when I saw it, and doctors think the same thing too. So when we were talking about the guy over here earlier asking about there being a pre-injury, just on my accounts, the face-off that day is at 80 million views, right? So if there was a pre-existing injury, somebody would have noticed it. He was limping, put his shoes on, he ran right at him. I don't think there was. Anything is possible, but he sure didn't look like it. And for 80 million just on my accounts, you know, that number's got to be massive, and nobody noticed anything. So there you go.
He tried a crazy move. He tried a jumping roundhouse kick. And when you're in that position, when you throw that jumping roundhouse kick, if you don't land in a good way with the supporting leg, you put so much pressure on that knee. The way he landed, he threw the kick, he jumped up, he threw it, and he landed with his knee in the worst position.
Four days before Conor McGregor stepped into the octagon at UFC 329, a camera caught something that's now impossible to unsee. Footage from Hollywood Fix shows him walking into the Newport Pain Management Clinic, limping visibly on his right leg, the same leg that would give out just 69 seconds into his fight with Max Holloway. Once that footage started circulating after the injury, it didn't take long for the entire combat sports world to start asking the same uncomfortable question. Did McGregor already know something was wrong before he ever touched gloves with Holloway? The clip itself is straightforward. McGregor walks into the building favoring his right side, the limp clearly visible even in low-resolution footage. What happened after that walk into the clinic is where things get murkier. Reports quickly surfaced that a knee specialist works out of that same building, and speculation exploded across social media, with one widely shared post declaring, Conor McGregor was seen walking into Newport Pain Management Clinic just 4 days before UFC 329. He is seen limping on his right leg when walking in. Within hours, that single piece of footage had become one of the biggest storylines of Fight Week, competing directly with the actual build-up to the bout itself. Not everyone accepted the speculation at face value. One independent account took it upon himself to actually visit the clinic in person, later posting that he'd spoken directly with staff at the knee specialist's office inside that building. According to that account, the office confirmed McGregor was never seen there and was not a patient of theirs. He went further, saying he checked the other offices inside that same location that anyone could visit for general knee issues, and none of them had any record of McGregor either. When critics pushed back, arguing that a medical office could never confirm or deny a patient's identity due to privacy regulations, he brushed the criticism aside, standing by what staff had told him in person. Whether that fully settles the question or simply adds another layer to it depends entirely on who you ask, since McGregor's team never issued an official statement addressing the visit specifically. It's worth noting how quickly this single piece of footage snowballed into a full news cycle of its own. Multiple major outlets picked up the story within a day of the injury, running headlines asking whether McGregor's comeback was already doomed before he ever stepped into the cage. The framing across most of that coverage was careful, treating the clinic visit as a legitimate open question rather than a confirmed fact, since nobody outside McGregor's inner circle actually knows what that appointment, if it even was one, was for. Routine maintenance on an old injury, an unrelated medical issue, or something more serious, tied directly to the knee that gave out days later all remain equally plausible without an official explanation. McGregor's own response to injury speculation, delivered after the fight rather than before, was categorical. "I was so sharp and so ready for this fight, I cannot believe what has happened," he wrote on X. "The talk of me being off while walking into the fight is nonsense. I was calm, ready, and confident. I am in shock what has taken place." In an earlier post the same night, he was even more direct about the injury's timing. "My head gasket is gone. Destroyed. I had no injuries going into the fight. I was throwing kicks, planted and jumping, all throughout camp as well as backstage before the fight. This came out of nowhere. I am beyond dark here. I can only describe it as hell." That denial hasn't fully quieted the speculation, partly because the clinic visit wasn't the only piece of pre-fight footage raising eyebrows. The UFC's own broadcast highlighted a moment of McGregor appearing to stumble while taking off his shoes just before his walkout, favoring one leg in a way that some viewers, including sports medicine commentators, read as consistent with someone protecting an existing injury rather than a random misstep. Which brings the story to Joe Rogan, sitting cageaside and calling the fight live as it happened. Rogan didn't get into the clinic visit specifically, but his real-time breakdown of the injury itself, delivered in the moments right after the stoppage, has become one of the most quoted reactions from the entire event. "He just tried a crazy move," Rogan said on the broadcast. "He tried a jumping roundhouse kick, and when you're in that position, if you don't land in a good way with the supporting leg, you put so much pressure on that knee. The way he landed, he threw the kick, he jumped up, he threw it, and he landed with his knee in the worst position." Rogan didn't hedge on what he thought had happened either. "He blew his ACL out with the very first move that he did," he said. "It sucks, but it's just, you don't do that." Daniel Cormier, sitting beside Rogan in the booth, offered his own read on why McGregor's body might have failed him so quickly, tying it directly to the 5-year layoff rather than any pre-existing issue. "When you've been away from that for so long and you come back in there, it's like you're shot out of a cannon," Cormier explained, describing the kind of explosive, uncontrolled energy a fighter can bring into a comeback fight after years without live competition, sometimes at the expense of the caution and control that normally protects the joints during a high-risk strike like a jumping kick. Rogan also offered a theory about why McGregor chose such an aggressive, high-risk opening in the first place, rather than easing into the fight cautiously after such a long absence. He suggested the flying kick might have been the game plan, speculating that McGregor could have wanted to immediately show the world he was still capable of kicking off his surgically repaired left leg, the one broken years earlier against Dustin Poirier, proving to everyone watching that the years of rehab had actually worked. If that was the intention, the moment backfired in the most literal way possible, injuring the opposite knee entirely on the very first attempt. There was also a smaller, more human moment from Rogan that fans picked up on almost immediately, when play-by-play commentator John Anik floated the idea that McGregor might attempt yet another comeback down the road. Cameras caught Rogan's reaction, a kind of resigned smirk, his face visibly scrunching as if the idea seemed almost impossible to process in that moment. Clips of that exact expression spread fast online, with fans captioning it things like, "Joe Rogan knows it's over," "Rrrr, man." Whether that reads as genuine doubt about McGregor's future or just an exhausted response to an emotionally brutal night is something viewers have been debating ever since. Tom Aspinall, watching from outside the broadcast, couldn't resist needling Rogan's instant diagnosis in a video posted to his own channel afterward. "That's upsetting, isn't it?" Aspinall said, reacting to how quickly Rogan settled on an ACL tear in real time. Joe Rogan said it's his ACL, so it definitely is. He's just got like MRI vision where he can see into his knee. Just diagnose him straight away. It was a lighthearted jab, but it also captured something real about how quickly the entire MMA community, from broadcasters to rival champions to random fans reviewing shoe removal footage, jumped straight into amateur diagnosis mode the second McGregor hit the canvas. So where does all of this actually leave things? The clinic visit remains real, documented on video, and never fully explained by McGregor's camp beyond his general denial that any injury existed heading into the fight. The specific claim that he saw a knee specialist there has been directly disputed by at least one person who checked with the office in question. Rogan's actual on-air analysis focused entirely on the mechanics of the kick itself and the risk of throwing that kind of strike after 5 years without live competition, not on any theory involving a pre-existing injury. McGregor himself has been unwavering in his denial, framing this as something that struck without warning in the middle of the biggest night of his comeback. What's clear is that this injury has become about more than just an unlucky landing. It's become a genuine mystery with competing pieces of evidence pointing in different directions, and neither McGregor's statement nor Rogan's real-time commentary has fully closed the case. Until an official MRI result and a clear account from McGregor's team settle exactly what that clinic visit was actually about, this story isn't going away anytime soon. What's your take? Do you believe McGregor's account that this came out of nowhere? Or does the clinic footage change how you're reading this whole situation? It's a strange spot for a story to sit in. Real footage on one side, a real denial on the other, and no official word from anyone in a position to actually settle it. That's exactly why this particular thread of the UFC 329 aftermath has kept spreading days after the fight itself ended. Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more as this story develops.